Hello, I'm Eagle Gardens, Eagle Gardens one on Instagram, and this is fucking talking shit with Eagle, episode 734. Hopefully, you guys have had a great day. I've had a pretty good day myself. I've got an amazing guest for us tonight, GrowTech Michigan. How you doing, my friend? And tell us where we can find you.
We're doing pretty good. We're doing pretty good. We're from Flint, Michigan. Basically, what we do is we specialize in facility design, and construction, and environmental control.
How you doing, my friend? And tell us where we can find you. Right on. It's pretty awesome. A lot of people need help and advice when it comes to those things. That's for sure, and that's something that can weigh very heavily on your grow.
Yeah, definitely. You know, we kind of started up back in 2008. I signed up as a patient and I started building myself a grow facility. And at that point, I kind of learned that, to build a medical grade grow facility that we kind of started up from a builder to an electrician, an HVAC tech, plumber, and then you got your basic room set up and design on that portion and then maintaining that room to build a medical grade grower state. So, this is where I kind of came through and decided to reduce that risk for the grower, kind of tackle all of these different environments in the trade that, you don't want five different construction companies come in to take care of your grow. Kind of puts you at a big risk from break-in, being rated by the law. So for things to be done right, that's kind of where GrowTech initially started. Like I say, we take care of everything from facility design to rough and finished carpentry, HVAC, plumbing, room setups, maintenance. From there, we kind of went on to just kind of taking care of the patients, taking care of the caregivers, teaching them how to grow properly. We've ran a pesticide-free and fungicide-free facility for about, since 2008. So we've had a few hiccups here and there, but that's where we take a start over and we get rid of everything and we start over and we take that loss, not the patient. It doesn't have to be done with pesticides and fungicides on a weekly basis to produce real medicine. I just don't feel that's how it's done.
Before we get too,
there we go. Yeah. I think we're back there.
Before we get too deep into GrowTech itself, let's find out a little bit about, the man behind GrowTech himself. So usually we start this off right in the beginning and kind of work our way up to, obviously what you're doing now. So my first question for you is, when did cannabis enter your life? When was the first time you either used or seen the plant?
I'm a second generation farmer, so I got to see a little bit as I was younger from my father. That's Five Sisters MI. That's him and his wife. They're all about farm to the table, bringing topicals, lotions, tinctures, those type of things that are the true medicine. Not just consuming cannabis as a smoke or a recreation, but trying to heal people. So, that's kind of where I got my first introduction of kind of seeing the ins and outs of it. And now, I'm at that point of teaching my kids the same kind of things, starting at third generation of farming. So that's kind of where I first got my first introduction into marijuana. Always been a consumer since way back when I was younger. It's helped me through a lot of medical issues that I've had in my life. I got a broken back that I deal with, and I use medical marijuana to make it through the day, to be able to stand here and do this on a daily basis. Helps me push on so I can provide for my kids and be a good father, a good husband to my woman. So medicine's really saved my life on this aspect, because without Five Sisters making the topicals and things like that, that really helped push through every day, I wouldn't still be here.
So was it the injury itself that kind of made cannabis medical, or did you kind of notice the impact a little bit prior?
That was kind of my main medical portion of it. As experimenting with it when I was younger, it wasn't really all medical at that point. It was more recreational. And working through with cannabis, I've really found the medical things that it can relieve for some of the people in this world that are suffering through, and they're trying to make it, and without it, I don't know where they'd be at today, because I see everybody dealing with things from postpartum to injuries to, anything from like PTSD. These are all things that can benefit from the cannabis in this industry when done right.
So I guess, when did the cultivation side of things come into play?
The cultivation side of things came into play back in 2008 when the medical marijuana program initiated. I really had this hatred against cancer, and I started reading some of the medical benefits that could benefit cancer patients. I lost my grandmother, I've lost my grandpa, I've lost my mother to cancer, and these are all things that I really wish I would have had the knowledge back then to help them fight, even if it was just to help them relieve some of the issues that they had in day-to-day life being cancer patients. I don't know if you've ever been by somebody's side as they went through that kind of stuff, but it's horrible. And if I can relieve that pain and suffering for somebody in any aspect of life, whether it be cancer or anything further from that, then I'd like to push through and do that. And that's really where, I started playing with RSO and things like that on that nature. And that's where I really started growing more, looking into the medical aspects of it. And that's when I started realizing that things weren't really being done right to be medicine. It was grown on a recreational level. People were using pesticides and fungicides and making medicine. I don't really feel that that's the way to do it. So I started pushing through and really cultivating hard and learning this, because for me to go in and set up facilities for people, like I have to know how to use all those different mediums and different lighting and control those environments to take care of issues that most people have to deal with bugs and fungicide or fungus and things like that. To not have to use pesticides and fungicides on a weekly basis is just huge. So I learned how to build a tight ship that would keep those types of things out. So I went to school for architecture. I've been a builder my whole life, and I just see that I can slam those two together of growing and architecture and building all into one. So it kind of created the GrowTech by itself and just kind of evolved from there.
Right on. You mentioned something that I think is very true about cannabis in general, all the way around, and that's kind of the quality of life. And there's, cannabis isn't the end all be all when it comes to medicine, but it does provide a lot of it can be the medicine, it can just be the lifeline that gets a lot of us by. But as caregivers, I think we've made that switch over into kind of just wanting a better quality of life. I think we use the medicine because we want a better quality of life. And even as a medicine as strong as something against cancer, even if it isn't the cure, it helps provide a better quality of life for the way out. What do you think, Bob? Your
I
thoughts?
mean, like as far as that goes, one of the big proofs that I had was when my mother was suffering from cancer, and she was having a hard time with keeping foods or liquids or medicine down in any form. The doctors, I talked to them about medical marijuana because it was actually just starting back then. And I went through and talked to the doctors, and they kind of guided me through. We couldn't bring in medicine for her, which granted, my mother never consumed a joint a day in her life. So it wasn't something that she would have wanted to try. But at that point, the doctors put her on a product called Marinol, which from my knowledge is a synthetic marijuana produced in a lab at a hospital or some type of facility that they do. And once she started that Marinol, she kept her food down from there on out until the point that they had to put her in hospice. And once they put her in hospice, they pulled her off this product called Marinol, and she immediately started throwing up. And for the next 3 days, she threw up until she passed away. So at that rate, because Marinol wasn't a product that hospice was allowed to use, she had to suffer. And that's just something that somebody on their deathbed shouldn't have to do.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that she had to suffer like that because of the Yeah, very tough issue. Sorry for your loss, 100%.
Yeah, I highly appreciate that. It's just it's something that helped create who I was, and I got to live with it. And it's something that I really value my family because of that. My kids are my world. My wife is my world. My old man and his wife, my sister, those are the ones that have really pushed me through on this. It's your family that stands by you, that you have to look at every day and decide whether you were the person you wanted to be. And those are the ones that you got to make it right for. So, but it made me definitely appreciate life and my family and what I have.
What were some of the strains that you started out or cultivars that you started growing?
We've ran through the ringer with strains. Back when we first started, we went to the Cannabis Cup and we purchased a bunch of seeds, spent a bunch of money, and honestly found a bunch of garbage. So that the pheno hunting of that aspect, we got to learn the hard way, kind of. So that was one thing that we kind of ran through. The second year of the Cannabis Cup, we picked up more seeds and we tried it all again. And some of the first strains we ran, like the Crimson Crush, that was an old good one from Gage Green Group. Created a good medicine because it was a pure indica, good for making RSO. So that was one that I really enjoyed. But we've ran through quite a few strains. We hunt roughly about 40 strains a year. We try to do a pheno hunt on them and kind of pull out the best of the best that we can on those. Everything that we have is done in-house. So it's all started from seed. And we go through and do a pheno hunt and we select our best cultivars, and then we provide our clones and our medicines for the caregivers in Michigan that need that on a reliable basis, where it's clean medicine and they can kind of put that out there that way directly from clone. We do have a seed line that we put out. We did a GMO cookies back cross. We crossed that all back kind of through to some of our strains that we really loved. Then we went on to a Chem Cookie Gorilla Glue cross and went through and back crossed that through some of our strains that we really loved. We've done good with some of our strains. We've took home a few trophies from some of the local competitions. One of my favorite is probably Moon Dust. It's an OG back cross, really gassy. I'm kind of a gassy smoker, but although I do like that fruity terp once in a while.
Yeah, definitely a fan of the gas myself. How many strains have you bred out altogether?
We've only bred out about 16 strains, I think, total. Usually we only do about 8 in a run, and we do real small craft cannabis runs where it's just personal, stuff for pheno hunting that we're going to kind of run through ourselves, really. We release a couple out just to good people that we meet in the industry, and we don't try to spread it too far on that level, just because I'm not trying to be out here being a breeder, really. I'm just trying to produce good genetics for my patients. And the caregivers that are local around here. So, but as far as strain hunting right now, we started the year with about 72 strains, and we've whittled back to about 40 strains at the current moment. Just trying to deal with the market and the way things are rolling, trying to keep the lights down and less mothers and a little bit less workload. This is probably the first time I feel like I could actually take a day off for a minute and not come to work 365 days a year, and I call it work, although it's just being a caregiver on that level. But it is, because it's 365 days a year. You have to be there and be responsible for everything and make sure things run right. Because if you're not, that's where issues occur.
Boy, that's a large library to juggle right there, my friend.
Yeah. It's been a year. Plus we did the bulletproof genetics grow off. So we did the jealousy by deep fried ice cream, and we ended up pulling 8 phenos that we really felt were winners out of that for the competition. And we went through and we submitted 3 different ones, and we got lucky and ended up taking first place on that. So really stoked. That was about the last 9 months worth of work on top of just keeping the genetic library open. So it was an extra load. Always pheno hunting always weighs on you. So
What's some of the favorites in your library right now?
Uh, right now, I really like the Jealousy by Deep Fried Ice Cream, of course. We've got a Pheno in that. Pheno number 3 is really gassy, mentholy, almost minty. Um, on a daily basis, I like smoking Gas Pump. It's strained by Sin City Seeds. We went through and pheno hunted that, and we found one that's more of a sativa dominant. It's got that White Nightmare by Blue Petrol in it, and it's not the Blue Petrol pheno that I've been hunting for, but it brought that White Nightmare out of it. That's really sweet undertones that I just really like the flavor of. I can smoke that every day. But as far as like a everyday smoke, I like the petrol. I like that old petroleum head stash. Just the gassiness of it is what kind of pulls me in. So
So what is your in particular personal cultivars grow style?
well, I'm a little bit of everything because as I go into people's facilities and they're already either kind of started and they're having issues, and that's kind of where they call me at and say, "Hey, man, I keep failing. Is there something you can do to get me in the right direction?" So I usually go in and I kind of work with whatever they're starting with, because as far as the nutrient goes, it could be any new line. They're all pretty decent, whether it go from organic all the way down to a salt synthetic drip. Pretty comfortable running almost all of them. As far as gross out goes, everything from HPS to LED, I've kind of played with all of them. When I started with the old T5s. That's veg and bloom. It was just something small, simple, but it produced fire, and it was a small scale, but it was probably better quality than I had ever seen as far as growing up and smoking product that was in the industry before that. So I moved from there and kind of went on to HPS metal halide setups. And then now we do kind of a mixed HPS LED setup where we're just kind of playing with things, trying to see what cultivars grow better under LED or HPS, because when you tweak one little thing, it changes everything about the grow environment. So you can take that same room, slap in some LEDs, and everything changes. So all those cultivars that you thought were great cultivars and you threw away all these other ones, those may have been good under LED or HPS environments as opposed to the other ones. So as far as when things change and you go, wow, this grew totally different. So I feel that as somebody who's providing genetics to the caregivers, then we need to know what these things grow under. So, if it come out of my garden and the only thing I tested under is HPS and I felt like that was the best cultivar, and then I give it to somebody that has LEDs, it's not going to grow the same and it's not going to be the same. So as far as that goes, I feel like that testing needs to be done kind of on a side-by-side environment. And that's what I'm really playing with right now, is just kind of going through and dialing in my genetics for those specific instances. So when I say, hey, this I feel would go good in your room, giving somebody that knowledgeable advice that I've already done the legwork behind it and figured out whether it was going to work or not.
So I guess my next question is, most people, are you helping currently or do help? Are they on a little bit larger scale, or are you helping more of the smaller scale, the patients that kind of need the helping hand?
Right now we've concentrated on the medical caregiver market. So on the small scale, I'm not going in setting up 60 lights, things like that. The biggest grows that I normally set up are about 24 lights, usually on a smaller scale than that, though, all the way down to closet grows. So enough to where a patient can produce their own medicine and at that rate be their own caregiver, I guess you would say, because you don't have a caregiver. But no, all the way down to as small as you can get. um, I feel like those are the ones that truly need the help right now, and that's where I've kept my industry at of myself. So um, from here forward, I don't really know how large we'll push. I would love to be able to help a lot more people, but I also don't want to have to jump through the industry hoops that are going on right now, because I feel like it's a rat race to the bottom. And right now, I feel like it's about producing this caregiver craft market that isn't really there anymore. It's everybody's trying to compete with these $50 and $100 ounces, and that's not how real medicine's produced. Like, if you want quality, you need to be able to put into your workers, into your spaces, your environments, and do things where it's keeping that ship tight instead of spraying pesticides and fungicides all the time. So, I guess there's a difference, and there is that recreational market that is okay for that portion. But when it comes to craft medicine, I feel like the caregivers should be picking up the market for that. Those are the ones that are going to put their pride into small craft cannabis and produce individual strains that the patient is looking for on a specific need. And the caregivers in Michigan can do that. As you can see, I mean, we run a huge strain library. We make sure that our patients have a variety at all times on the shelf for them to pick from. So from there, I really don't know how far we'll go. We'll see where the industry allows us to sit at this level, because really I'd like something on a small craft level that I can still take care of the patients, but not on a huge level that it can't be ran properly.
One thing I can greatly appreciate about what you're doing is you're thinking about the patient on, all corners, all levels there. Because, one of the things I think about cannabis, the most powerful thing about cannabis is, of course, the medicine itself, but the empowerment of being able to grow your medicine and kind of forming a deeper relationship with the plant, I think is equal, if not greater, to medicine than the medicine.
Right. Well, that's huge, because when somebody takes the time to sit down and actually grow their own medicine, they realize the work that it takes to produce quality on a consistent level, where they can say, man, I can consume this on a daily level, and I know I can provide my own medicine. And they go through and they learn how hard it is, and the ups and downs, and how to conquer obstacles. And they go, man, I really want to know what's going into my medicine. I want to know what's being put on it, what it's being grown with. And then from that point, they become knowledgeable about the subject, and they realize the worth of real medicine and what they're getting. And at that point, I don't feel like they would be just consuming, garbage at that point.
100%. For a lot of people that I've talked to, myself included, a lot of my patients that I've dealt with, it's you know, the cultivation side, just having that something to do, something to pull you ahead, something to take care of, and it being a zen, like anti-anxiety type place. Again, great medicine. And I'm glad that you're encouraging, patients to grow, and then the ones who can't, obviously, providing a wide range of good flower for them.
Right. And that's something that if anybody's ever in need of a caregiver, we can always either try to pick you up ourselves, or we can link you with other caregivers that we feel are doing this right in Michigan, and on that level that you can trust and actually get quality products from. So if we're not able to pick up because we can only handle so many patients at a time, we can always pass you along to one of our good people that I know I've set up a good facility for, that they don't do the bad things in this industry that we just don't want to put up with.
What do you have? What are some of the advice you have for a patient that might be watching and then on the borderline of caregiver or growing for themselves?
If it's you're looking for a caregiver, I advise you to kind of pay attention to what your caregiver does, what he's using. Look at the products that he uses on a daily basis, everything from what he waters with to the medium that he's using to grow in, all the way down to if he's using any pesticides or fungicides for an IPM management. From there, as far as like a patient, any advice that I have on that level is just start small, take little risk where you're not going to fail and lose a ton of money because you're trying to learn, and do everything where you can take steps forward. So like whenever I go into a place and I try to do a build out for somebody, I try to push them into doing things that they can evolve forward with. So everybody always wants to go and start, build this big, huge place, buy all these lights and all this. And it's more of a, you want to do things correctly in the right order. So things are set up properly. So you're not tearing things out just a step forward, because a step backwards is huge. And, the first thing I always tell people is put a ceiling up. That's your kind of starting point, because if you don't do that, you start hanging your lights, you're never going to want to drop those lights down and put a ceiling up. So it's just the direction and steps that you need to take to do it properly and not cost yourself a bunch of money stepping backwards.
What about as far as like strains go? Before, like, your advice for patients, I'm curious to know what's working best for your patients, the ones that you have now. Is it stuff that's kind of got the higher terpene levels? Is it mid-range stuff as far as THC goes? What's helping the most?
Well, if I'm going to be making an RSO, I like using a pure indica flower, just because, I've kind of followed the lines of what Rick Simpson has taught. Using a heavy indica that's going to give that pure medicine value is probably a good idea if you're trying to go about things like cancer. If you're looking for pain relief, really any flower I find works well for pain relief. So as far as whether you want an upper or a downer, you need to really look into that as far as whether your patient's going to need a sativa, hybrid, indica. It just kind of depends on how they're going to feel and how they're going to consume that product. So if they're going to be consuming it by smoking it, you want to make sure that you're looking for that indica, that if you're looking for a daytime pain relief where you can stay home, sit on the couch, maybe get a nap, to provide that relief that those patients need. Now, if it's on more of an anxiety level, sometimes the hybrid and sativa help because it brings people out of their shell, where other times it kind of creates that anxiety. So at that point, more of a hybrid, I feel like, would be good for those people, to kind of tone it down just a little bit.
That's one of the things that I love about being the patients being able to kind of grow for themselves, because once they find that strain that really works for them, then they can kind of have it without a fear of not being able to get it from a dispo caregiver or whatever. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because it can be a little bit tough to find that one.
Well, see, that's the other thing too. Every caregiver that starts, let's say, seeds, and they pheno hunt out a strain. A patient's going to go to somebody and they're going to go, okay, look, he's got this strain. Well, that strain may not be the same as the next caregiver down the road, because either it came from seed stock that, you have your mother and your father parents, that you're pulling those genetical traits from, or it's just a totally different cut. And then it all boils down to the environment that it's being grown in. So if it's not grown in the same environment, that's going to be a different product altogether. Yeah, sure, it shows some of the same traits, but not always. So as far as a patient going from dispensary to dispensary, or like you say, caregiver to caregiver, buying different product, they're not going to get those same effects out of that same strain. So just something to look out for, that just because it says Gorilla Glue doesn't mean that it's the same Gorilla Glue. If it was one from the original cut of it, sure, maybe. But if it's a seed stock, you're going to get some different traits in there that are going to pick up, and it's going to be a little bit different. It's kind of like our sticky mints. It's TK by Gorilla Glue, and it brings in that sweet note, but it really has that Gorilla Glue flavor behind it. So it's different, and it's not going to be Gorilla Glue because we don't bring cuts into our facility. We start everything from seed stock, and at that point, it's going to be, of course, a little bit different. So I always, kind of let people know that if you like Gorilla Glue, this is probably one to try, but it's not going to be the same.
Yeah, and genetics, it's a little disheartening subject for me, because of the inconsistency there, and then of course the want of a lot of breeders to just chase hype times hype times hype versus medical and terp value and stuff like that. They'd rather see those hype names on the pack so they can sell, which
Right.
is kind of sad.
Yeah, especially when, it's breeding for looks instead of breeding for quality. So just because something looks good doesn't mean that it's good. And just because it looks bad doesn't mean that it's bad. Honestly, one of my worst looking strains right now is one of my favorite smokes. As far as a gassy one, it's neon gas. We've been kind of hunting through it, trying to find that pheno that grows, but up to this point, we've just found that flavor out of it, and it's one that I could smoke all the time. But if you put it up in a jar, people are going to walk past it all day.
Right on. What is it?
It's neon gas.
Oh, I'm sorry. You did say that.
Yeah,
Yeah. Sorry about that.
really good though, as far as smoke goes, and hopefully we'll find that pheno out of it. We have plenty of beans to hunt here, and so hopefully we'll find that pheno of it and be able to bring that out for the industry this year.
Nice, nice. Sometimes you got to force feed them a little bit, give them that like free pre-roll, tell
Right.
them try
Yeah.
it and come
Try
back.
this out and you'll be back. Well, my old man actually just took second place for the best doobie with the neon gas at the Cloud Cultivators Cup. So shout out to the old man, Five Sisters, always killing it.
That's pretty awesome, man. I love the fact that it's already a multi-generational thing, you
Yeah,
know.
it's something else when you get to work with your family, and then as far as like your father, your mother, your kids. It's always amazing when you get to work next to them day in and day out, and instead of having to go to that 9 to 5 to survive, you get to see your family every day. We homeschool our kids, and we try to bring that home farm environment to them where they kind of learn about everything from growing vegetables in the garden to farming chickens and raising their chickens and collecting eggs and everything else. So we kind of add that into our homeschooling, where it's just kind of a bonus, where they get that real day-to-day life and kind of that learning experience instead of everything out of the books. I went to architecture school at Lawrence Tech, and I put in quite a few years in school that just everything was the books, and it wasn't really learning the street smarts aspects of it. And luckily I learned that on my own as a kid. So the book smarts can come too, but you got to learn those street smarts to be out there in life, I feel like.
Right on. Again, I think that falls back under the quality of life thing. I know that's why I was a builder myself, and that's why I made the switch over into the caregiver. There is because I wanted the longevity of my own health, but I wanted to be closer to the home base and watch the kids grow up and stuff like that. And now that cannabis is quasi legal, we still got some strides to make. It's a beautiful time to hopefully be able to make that a legal multi-generational thing, because I honestly, again, man, I don't think it's a bad thing at all. Even for the younger kids, the more you dive into the cultivation side, it really is eye-opening. You learn a lot about the plant, the soil and stuff, but along that journey, you sure the hell learn a lot about yourself,
Yeah, you
for
do.
sure.
You learn about what ups and downs you can handle and what ones you can't, and how to keep a positive outlook on life, I guess, even through the struggles. So that's the only way you're going to get forward, is by pushing forward. So that's all I can say to keep doing, is pushing forward and trying to produce the best that you can.
Mentioned earlier something about strains by they look, man. That jealousy by that deep fried ice cream is a pretty flower. I gotta
Yep,
give
it
you
is.
some hats
Yep,
off
it
on
is.
that.
Yeah, I got to give a shout out to my wife. She runs Sugarleaf Photo Co. She took one of those photos for the competition, and then my cousin Gavin Smith Photography, he took one of the photos for the competition. And at that point, I just couldn't decide who take that third shot. So I had to step up and take that shot. So I feel like we all put our part in. I feel like each one of those pictures captures a different aspect of it. So, one captures that jealousy, the others on that deep fried ice cream where I feel like I could just sit there and eat ice cream all day. And the others kind of the combo. Don't be jealous while I'm eating my deep fried ice cream, because there's enough for everybody out here. So keep getting that pie. So, but yeah, we really enjoyed that pheno hunt. We found quite a few winners, and that's something that just kind of boils down to showing the difference in cultivars that you're going to find from seed stock. So we found everything from an indica to a sativa, and everything from gassy to creamy and fruity. So it was really interesting hunt, and it was an interesting year running through it. So
Well, I kind of like your approach to the breeding aspect of it too, not trying to spread it too far. That's kind of stuff that I like. Individuality, man. Me myself, I try to stay away from growing the hype time. So you know what I mean? I liked it when we all show up and every one of us has something that we're kind of looking forward to, that one's growing. You know what I mean? Something special
yeah,
that isn't, what you can find or get. So I think that's pretty awesome about your approach to breeding there. It's gonna be, sounds like it'd be like a local legend kind of thing, to where, you come to Michigan, you hit his area, man. You gotta try that jealousy times the ice cream cake. You know what I mean?
yeah. Yeah, speaking of that, kind
Not
of, we just
fried
went
ice
to,
cream. I'm sorry.
no, you're good. We just went to the Breeders' Ball up at Kalkushka Lounge. Chris from the Chronic Connoisseur put this on, and it was kind of to pay homage to the breeders out there and the work that they're doing, because he kind of went through and went through how the breeders are never recognized. It's always the growers or the dispensaries that are selling the product, the big names behind it, and it's something that he felt like the breeders never got that name out there, that they get recognition for the work that they do and all the hard nights they put in, or the time away from their family. And because there is a lot of that in this industry, when it's something that you can't bring a bunch of people in to do the job. So we went up and did that, and it was an event that I really can't get over how great it was. It wasn't, hey, let me charge you a bunch of money to come here and promote your business. It was, let me pay homage to you, and let me give you a catered dinner and a party of your own. And then, as the night went on, he come out with things from Special K Glass. He had a custom bong blown for each of the breeders. And then he come out with an iSpire rig, and iSpire is sponsoring all the breeders that are there, making their rigs for them. So it was just something that was really cool, that somebody would do something like that for the breeder, and then have a whole event the next day to allow people to come in and gather up these genetics from amazing people like Fresh Coast Seed Co. and Gage Green Group, ABC Co. I mean, there was a ton of different companies, Dogfather, a lot of different breeders that, a lot of people that grow weed or that consume weed don't even know who these people are. And those are the local legends that put in their time and their effort to create these strains and produce that next thing.
What have been some of your favorite events the last few years? I think Michigan's second to nobody when it comes to kick-ass events.
Yeah, there's always good events. I always got to throw it out to Buddy with Cloud Cultivation. He always has the Cultivators Cup, and that event is just hands down one of my favorite of the year. It's always about trying to get back to the community at that point and enjoying a good time. So as far as my favorite goes, it's always that event. The Breeders' Ball, like I say, that just blew my world, that how it was to go up there and not have somebody charge you a dime, because right now the caregivers are struggling. Their market is being hammered on right now, and most consumers don't understand the difference in what good medicine is or good quality products are, and they just go for that cheap price. So it really is hurting the caregivers that are paying more money for electricity and not buying on a quantity level like these huge grows. And it costs the caregiver more money to do it than it does on a larger scale, in my opinion, as far as, on a level that trying to make sure that everybody has a quality product, it's expensive to do that. And for something like that, to bring up those breeders and kind of pay homage to them and not charge them for that and let them come up and do this, it was pretty amazing, because that may help some people make it that otherwise may not be here in the industry to put genetics on the table for people.
Yeah, and that's one of the other reasons I bring up these events, because they are right now the one of the lifelines, biggest lifelines for the Michigan caregivers. I don't think if it wouldn't be for a lot of these events, a lot of us wouldn't even be even to making it right now.
Right. Yeah, it definitely would be a lot harder to allow people to see what kind of product you can produce, whether it be from everything from, room design to quality products from farm to table. Without that, it'd be hard to put your products in front of people where they could actually see what you had and build that name for them to recognize.
Right on. Let's get back a little bit to the grow tech side of things. What are some what medium, what process do you suggest starting off some of these new patients with?
Everything from a water only soil would be great to start with. You could also do something like Pro Mix, where it's a peat based medium, and it's super easy because you're kind of starting with just a base. It doesn't have a bunch of nutrients, things like that. And you can kind of pick a nutrient line to run with that, along with cocoa is another product that's really easy and easy for somebody to start out growing in, because it's forgiving. If you jump right into hydro, things like that, you're probably going to have a few more problems with, if something goes wrong, you don't have that buffer. So it's an immediate hit where, as a new grower, you may not know how to conquer or go about even fixing any of these issues. So at that point, I would feel that it would be easier with a soil. There's several soils that that you can get from the grow shops. I'll go ahead and let the grow shops push you on whatever mediums they feel work the best, because I'm not here to promote any one company or anything. Like I say, I feel like you could use any of those and do pretty good. As far as lighting goes, HPS is a great place to start. LEDs are great. T5s would be a good tent light that you could definitely throw a little bit of good ganja under. But LEDs probably are the wave of the future when it comes to conserving electricity, keeping heat down. There are some things that you need to conquer with that too. Your environment, your humidity is going to be totally different depending on what you're running and what you're looking for in the end. So, but as far as that goes, anybody that has any personal questions about their garden, they can always hit us up at GrowTechMi on Instagram. We're always there to help. Just send us a DM and we'll see if we can get back to you in a timely manner. If it's something that I can help you out with, just talking to you usually. A lot of times we don't have to come in and change a bunch of stuff. It's just simple little tweaks that you can do yourself.
So when you say we, would you say like you're the front man for GrowTech? Who's all necessarily involved when we talk GrowTech?
Usually it's just me coming into places. As far as if I need a helping hand, I do have some builders that I've worked with my entire life that we kind of work together. And if I have bigger tasks that I need to pull off that I can't pull off by myself, then I will usually bring one other person in and we'll knock it out. So as far as that goes, a lot of times it's my wife or my father, my family that I need, just for that extra helping hand, because usually it's not a ton of work that I need help with, but sometimes it's just that extra hand holding an end or handing me a tool. So a lot of times it's the patient or the caregiver that I'm working with. So when I say we, sometimes it's them, because I'd like them to be as much of the process as they could. So when an issue arises, they can maybe fix that issue instead of having to call me and bring me out just to do simple things. So it's kind of a learning process that it's like building a car. Once you build one, you're probably going to know how to fix some issues on it.
What's your suggested method for plant training methods for, I guess, maximum yield for the patient?
There's a little bit of a play with that, depending on what type of lighting, what kind of medium I'm using. Myself, I like using less plants, of course, and larger plants. I feel like I get more tops that way, less issues with bud rot or mold, anything like that, because when you start growing individual gonzo colas and lots of plants, you just tend to get an issue where there's bud rot if the environments aren't correct, and just it's hard for new growers to go, oh man, I see what's wrong, and to adjust. So as far as that goes, myself, I like growing bigger plants, more tops, but it just depends on the environment that they're working with and what I would suggest.
I'm right there with you with the bigger plants thing. I've always been there. Unfortunately, our hands are held back by plant count. So we have to make that shit count. I always like cringe when I see somebody post something up and they've got all their 12 one twent
Right.
all at flower at once. And it's like,
Yep.
oh geez, just a little bit of extra time and stagger. You're
Yep.
so much better off. And is there a perpetual that you suggest your patients to go on, or is you suggesting them to kind of, fire at once?
It's all kind of dependent on how much that person's going to be consuming or how many patients they have. We kind of calculate out a rough monthly dose of what we feel that a patient would need and go kind of off of that. So a perpetual cycle is always great, but I like to kind of design it out where rooms are going to control kind of per patient load, I guess you'd say. So you can run a perpetual cycle on multiple rooms, because when you're not using fungicides and pesticides, you really need to be able to sterilize and clean those rooms in between harvests. So going from one harvest to the next, I don't like to have perpetual cycle of plants going in that same environment, just because it makes it hard to do that. You can't really go through and sterilize and clean everything. And when we do, we try to make sure that we can completely empty the room, clean everything up. We do everything from H2O cleans to bleach cleans to just depending on what we're trying to control in those environments. There are a lot of products out there now by other companies that are actually made for cleaning environments. So to each his own, however you want to go about it. Some of it breaks down to cost and what the caregiver or patient can afford, because some of them are really pricey, and you can do the same thing with a lot of other chemicals. So that's kind of my main take on perpetual harvest or running different environments per room. I feel like it's better to keep that clean environment. That way you don't have issues.
With that in mind, first time growers tent or trying to start a room.
Can you say that again?
I said with cleanliness and all that in mind, when you're suggesting a new grower, are you suggesting them to kind of, start a small room or a tent? Which in your opinion is the more cleanlier way to go there for a beginner?
I always push people to build a room, because when I go about doing a facility for somebody, and when I say facility, I don't mean a huge place. Sometimes it's just a small bedroom size environment that is going to be their facility, right? But I always go about trying to insulate and keep everything I can out. So as far as if they wanted to use tents, I would suggest building an environment around those tents that can do that, and not just rely on just the tents to control that. For some of you guys that use tents, like I always had issues with light leaks, things like that, if I tried running more than one tent. So as far as that goes, for a new grower, if they wanted to try it to see if they, wanted to dip their feet in and go, man, do I like this? Is this something I even want to do? A tent will get you going. But I really feel that if you want to use a fungicide-free, pesticide-free facility, that you really need to build a tight ship. And whether that be an environment around those tents or just building the environment, uh, to each his own.
Kind of keeping some of these questions geared towards the patient themselves, because as we talked about, man, there is kind of a scare going on right now for a lot of caregivers. And unfortunately, they may have to think about cultivation themselves to maintain a proper cannabis if we don't necessarily start supporting the caregiver group instead of the large dispos that they're pushing us and are so hard trying to drive us out of the business there, or not even business, just helping each other. And
Yeah,
business was a bad word, because I know myself, I haven't necessarily all, tried to bend in it for a buck, more for the right
right.
thing to do.
Yep. And usually that's the bad part, that it's usually not a money making machine when you are trying to do things right. Usually the ones that are the money makers are the ones that half-ass things. And honestly, that sucks, because the average consumer doesn't know what they're getting, and they just figure if it looks good and it smokes, they're okay with it. So on that rate, the ones that made the money in the industry usually didn't do it right, and the ones that put their money back into the facility and really tried doing things right, those are the ones that, they provided good medicine. It wasn't about the buck for them, and it's just the love of the plant. And honestly, I feel like a lot of the caregivers that are still here, it's about the love for the patient and the love for the plant, because at this point, it's a really hard market for the caregivers to even survive. So
Right on. I'm a firm believer 100% that it will be the quality from the caregiver that will keep themselves alive
yeah,
100%.
yeah,
The dispo weed there looks good. Some say it tastes good, but it doesn't have that high that, that a caregivers offer, and I think it is that individual time with the plants, the love that they put in it, that makes all the difference.
but Eagle, this is the thing that I've been noticing, is that when you walk into a dispensary, there is no medical shelf really anymore. And it's because a lot of the growers are opting out of the medical portion when it comes to the big market. um, they're having a hard time passing the test. And if you are going through remediating products or having mold and stuff like that on your product and you can't pass the test, they're just kind of opting out, and they're going, hey, let's just grow recreationally then. And at that point, that's kind of an issue, because if that's the case and they all want to be recreational growers, then let the caregivers pick up this medical market. Allow us to be in these dispensaries and take care of the medical market. As long as we're testing our products and coming through, they need to design a caregiver method of testing that is feasible for a caregiver. Because like for me, I grow 72 different strains all at one time. I don't grow multiple of every plant. I grow one plant, and every strain is different in that garden. So it makes it hard for me on that level of training and keeping things proper. But that's where you really have to know those strains in that garden and put the work in. But I really feel like that the medical portion should be picked up by the caregivers of Michigan if the industry doesn't want it, because there is still a need for medicine here. This isn't just recreational pot. Um, we voted this law in back in 2008, because there was a need for medicine. Uh, at that point, the caregivers should be stepping up and grabbing that portion. So whatever it takes to move forward from that point, so our products can be out there and available for all the patients of Michigan. It should be where, as long as you have your medical card, you should be able to buy any medical marijuana you want. And at this point, it's hard, because when you can only take care of your select patients, there's a lot of people suffering that can't find good caregivers because they've been wiped out by this market that's falling down on them, this race to the bottom. So at that point, they're stuck going for recreational marijuana.
And that's a sad thing, 100%, because as you kind of pointed out, things are getting very limited on the medical side. And once it kind of gets to that, the strains grown, as you kind of already pointing out here, are going to be limited. The medicine that with wide range of medicine that you could have had will be limited to what they wanted to grow. Even as caregivers here in Michigan, it's already kind of, again, as you've pointed out, had a big impact on us. I'm much like yourself. I would much rather have a garden full of different flavors than to have to monocrop. And unfortunately, the way things are set up right now, nobody wants a mixed bag anymore. You know what I mean? They're forcing you into that monocrop already, to where it's limiting our medicine. If you have to, you know what I mean? If you're trying to even make a living, you have to conform somewhat.
Yep. Yeah, and when it's an industry that's all based off of THC values, I feel like you lose at that point. There's a lot more to it than just THC value when it comes to marijuana, and what medicine or what it can produce for somebody and the overall effects and how they feel. I feel like terpenes should come into play a little bit more, and then all the other natural cannabinoids. And I don't feel that it should be a test that is unachievable for a caregiver to do. It's not achievable to grow one plant and go have it tested and pay thousands of dollars to get to the point of knowing if it's a good product or not and being able to put it on a shelf. So
what do you, I guess, what are some of your advice to help keep the caregiver support going?
just spread the knowledge. Whatever knowledge you have, explain to your patients or consumers that why your medicine may be different than somebody else's, or what to look for in a medicine. How should a bud look? Should it be rock hard? Probably not. Things like that. Just kind of explain to people the back end that you see every day as a grower, so they understand the industry and what's done to produce these products. And at that point, I feel like a lot of people will understand better what they're getting, and they'll want to stay with those craft growers and the ones that truly want to provide a quality for them, not just a cash product.
So I guess, what other ways of, do you provide just flour for your medicine and RSO, or do you provide some edibles, and topicals? I think you said, Five Sisters there.
We pretty much provide everything from flour, concentrates. We do everything from live resin to hash rosin. We do topicals. We have a PTSD rub for the forehead that kind of relieves some of those symptoms. We have tinctures that relieve toothaches, headaches, anxiety. You can sleep through the night, get restless sleep instead of being restless all night, tossing and turning. You get a good night's sleep. All the way down to, we do dab tools and things of that nature, trying to reuse some of the plant product that would be otherwise wasted in this industry. That's just has a lot of waste. So we try to reuse a lot of the stuff and be as green as possible. So yeah, we provide a little bit of everything from farm to table, all the way down to like bug repellents, sunscreens, things of that nature on your daily products. So if there's ever anything anybody wants us to create, just let us know and we'll see about producing that for you if that's what we can do.
Right on. Did I hear you say bug repellent?
Yeah, actually, the mother made some bug repellent last year, and when I say mother, that's my dad's new wife. Phone's getting ready to die on me here, Eagle. So we'll just roll through till we die, right? Like anything else in life. So, but yeah, actually, she did really well. She came up with a bug repellent. She has CBD and THC. And when you put it on, it's more of a skin relief. Instead of feeling gross after you've done it, your body feels good. So it's one of those, you go camping, you put it on the night before, you wake up in the morning, you don't feel sticky, mucky, and nasty, and it actually works. So we've kind of been pushing forward, trying to create other products that can help people on a daily basis other than just what we provide up to this point. It's just something that we keep kind of pushing Five Sisters to create new products for us if it's something that we need. They kind of got started and they were producing a topical for my back due to the broken back. And then they went on to making a massage oil, to making the tinctures, and then all the way through to roll-ons and the lotions of bug repellents and skin creams and things like that. So as far as we wouldn't be there without the whole team. So GrowTech is a collab of GrowTech, Five Sisters, and then we have my wife Sugarleaf Photo Co. And she takes care of the photos of the portion. So she's all about kind of connecting people and bringing together the photography aspect of it. So
That's pretty awesome, my friend. That's really awesome that you have a team like that. And it takes a team of people that actually care. And it's moreover greatly important that you have the family behind you, behind the dream. You know what I mean? It can work both ways. They can be all the support, or it's that driving wedge.
Yeah. And it's been total support from my family. We've had some a lot of long nights over the years getting to where we've been at. And I missed out a lot on things that, that's what work does to you when you got to work a lot. You miss out on a lot. But luckily we've rearranged our life where I get to see the kids all the time. I get to see my family while I'm working together, and that I feel like has slowed down some of that loss. So on that aspect, I'm so appreciative for the caregiver market that's been here, that's allowed me to do what I love doing since 2008, and it has helped me help a lot of people. So without it, I wouldn't have been able to step out like this and provide what I've provided over the years. So I'm really thankful for that, and thankful for the patients that still keep coming.
Right on. I'm thankful for what you do too, man. It's an important role, what we do, and you're doing an amazing job. Obviously, what you're doing, otherwise you still wouldn't be standing with the rest of us. So I think that's pretty awesome. Chat says plug your phone in, but
Yeah.
just they're just interested. They're digging this as much as I am. And before we do drop out, I want to make sure and get a few things out of the way, and then we'll take it till it dies if you'd like. But I think you're an amazing guy that's doing the right thing. So this is the way things roll around here. I don't know if you've been able to check out the show, see what you were getting yourself into.
No, actually, this is the first time. So I've seen a few YouTube videos that were after the show, like not live, but other than that, this is the first time. And I don't really get on and do a whole bunch of lives or anything like that. It's all kind of just, I do it for my patients. That's what it's for, and my family. And that's kind of it. It's not about getting out here, getting clout or anything like that. So, first timer here on you. So I appreciate me for sure, man.
Part of helping the patients is spreading the knowledge. And, best way to do that is through portholes like this. So, this is how the show works, or the channel works anyway, is basically, the one-on-one which you've done tonight. So the Zoom link that I sent you tonight is always good. Okay. You're always welcome at this point. Monday nights is a Weed Nerd World. That's where the link comes into play. Anything that you see Weed Nerd World and it's live, no invitation needed. Just come hang out. Maybe even if it's at night you can't sleep and just want to smoke a joint and hang out, grab that phone, come smoke. You know what I mean? We're always looking for new advice, new topics, new conversation. And obviously you have a lot of great information to share. So we'd be more than grateful for you to come hang out and, just be more part of the community. I know you said you don't do that, but it's an awesome thing for 100%. So hopefully you'll keep that Zoom link and keep it in mind anyway as the future goes on. The second thing I'd like to get from you, my friend, is a silly little thing I call the soundbite. At some portion, this will be a commercial for your episode. Basically what I'm looking for in a nutshell, my version would be something like, hey, this is Eagle and I'm on fucking Talking Shit with Eagle episode 734. You can put whatever you want before or after that, just make it your own. I'd be more than grateful, and I am ready right now, my friend.
Hey, this is Nick with GrowTech. We're here with Talking Shit with Eagle. We just wanted to teach you guys about the caregiver system and that we're still here fighting for the patients. We specialize in facility design, construction, and environmental control. Design, create, control the environment. Have a good day.
That's the way you lay down a soundbite right there. That was perfect, my friend.
Thank you.
Perfect.
I appreciate you, Eagle. I'm going to smoke this joint and get out of here.
Right on. Right on.
Have a good one, man. Thank you very much.
Yep. Hopefully we can do this again. At least
sure,
if not
man.
in the weed nerd world, just an update.
Excellent, man. I'd love to. Thanks for having me.
No problem. You have a wonderful evening.
Have a good one.
You too. For the rest of you guys, thank you very much for tuning in. Greatly appreciate your guys' time as well. And yep, it's a little bit early, so there will be a weed nerd world after this. So go ahead and empty that bladder, fill your trays, and get ready for a weed nerd world. Nick, thank you one last time for hanging out. Come hang out in the weed nerd world if you want.
For sure, man. I'll get my phone plugged in here and I'll come check you out.
All right. Thanks, man.
Brother. Have a good one.